y'all. It is Sunshine coming to talk about the indicators for a long term relationship, life partnership, marriage, however you would like to identify yourself or your relationship. I've seen so many videos about soulmate relationships or aspects or indicators, and some of this you may recognize and be familiar with, but a lot of it will be different. I do not like superficial astrology. I do not like sun sign astrology. Um, I like to get into the deep astrology, meaningful, transformative. I have, eighth house stuff in my life in my chart. So I definitely like to get down deep beneath the surface and talk about, okay, what's really happening. So I wanted to share what I have found. I've looked at probably, I've looked at thousands of charts, but when I studied relationships, I've probably looked at about, I don't know, 70 or 80 couples. A lot of them, unfortunately, I don't have birth times for every person. I may have had birth times for one person, um, but and it still gave me a lot of useful information. There are charts where I had both birth times, so definitely very helpful. But just gathering all that data, I wanted to come and talk about what to look for in your partner, in your next partner, if you want to see if this is going to be something long lasting or if this is just going to be a fling. So let's get into it. Okay, so one of the number one things that I look for are nodal contacts. Nodal or Saturn contacts. Those are very, very important. I'll go over each of these later in this video, but sun moon contacts, I mean, that's everything. I'm not going to lie. That is a huge, huge one. So if you don't have Saturn contacts and you don't have nodal contacts, that sun moon contact needs to be there. It has to be there. That will trump a lot of things. Planets in the seventh house. That can be a big one because that activates your partnership house. Contacts to the seventh house ruler. Now, I want to say almost every couple that I've looked at had contacts to the seventh house ruler. They have to activate that seventh house in some way. Um, Ascendants being flipped. That's a good one. That's like a almost kind of like a sun moon deal. And then something very unique that I found because I do Hindu astrology as well. The birth dasha. And I will get into that later. I can't, it's too complicated to kind of explain without looking at the stuff, but those are the indicators for me that I have noticed through my research. Okay, so nodal contacts. Like I said before, there's either, Saturn or nodal contacts. These contacts are usually made to the sun, moon, Venus, or first or seventh house. Um, what's been interesting is the contacts don't necessarily have to just be conjunction to the north or south node. I've seen a lot of squares. I've seen a lot of squares to um, the sun, moon, or Venus in these couples. So don't just look for that, conjunction or opposition. Um, I don't, let me be honest with you, I don't typically like the north node in sun conjunction because that indicates that there's many more lifetimes to go. And so that relationship may not fully develop in this lifetime. And so there may be some other um, lifetimes or other, if you believe in that, there just is more to it. And so it may not develop in this lifetime. Not saying that's always the case, but if you don't have any other nodal connections, Saturn connections especially, I would say that that relationship may not get off the ground how you want it to. So, all right. So I usually do, I'm always about showing my work. I'm kind of like in math. You got to show your work, like you can't just give the answer, you got to show the work. So I want to be able to take you through a lot of the charts that I've looked at or some of the charts I've looked at to help you see what I'm talking about, and couples that you may be familiar with. So I think we all know Victoria Beckham and David Beckham. I spelled his name wrong, so forgive me for that. So we have Victoria's chart wheel on the inside, and then we have David's chart on the outside. Okay, so we're looking at Venus in the south node. And immediately you see that here. This is his Venus, and this is her south node. So that is very close in degree. So I'm definitely going to look at that. I really like to stay within 5 degrees, if not a lot less than that. But I will look at five, maybe 5.5 sometimes when you're looking at these contacts. But there, I mean, South Node. That is, I remember, I think I read something that Victoria said she had seen him and knew that was going to be her husband, or she just knew. And that sounds like a South Node Venus type of thing. So there you have it. I'll get into this later, but y'all see that Saturn there on the ascendant. So they have that Saturn contact as well, but I'll save that for later. But you do see that there that they obviously been married for a long time, a long time. So that is very important to have that. Okay, so the next one we have Prince William and Kate. Now I have Kate's birth time at 7 p.m. There has been some debate about whether she was born at 11:33 p.m. I chose to use the 7 p.m. birth time with the Leo rising. She kind of reminds me of that lioness kind of thing, that royal um, look to her. So I did decide to use that birth time. But I am very aware that some things could change if her birth time was different. So let me explain to you why. So her chart is on the inside. This is her wheel, and this is Prince William. Okay, so here I have the sun and moon to the node. So her sun is Capricorn and her moon is Cancer. And so Prince William's nodes are here. A north node is at Cancer and south node is at the sun. So her opposition is right on his nodal axis. Now obviously if her birth time was to change, um I believe this is like 18. This is really small on my screen, but I believe it's like 18 degrees. If it was to change to 11:33, it will change by a couple degrees. So it could be slightly out of that, um, you know, aspect orb that I like. It may be right outside of the five or maybe at the six for that, but you still will have this sun south node conjunction. That sun isn't going to move. I believe the sun may move 30 minutes either way, but at this late in the day, it's not going to move much. So we for sure have a sun south node conjunction there. So that is there. That is pretty powerful. Um, and this is why that pull for them to be together, we've all seen their story, but that pull to be together was strong. Um, they just couldn't get away from it, and especially Kate, she knew, she's like, this is my person. So that is the nodes are they're huge. They're key in that. I mean, they're destiny points. So we all know the North Node is about what you're learning, your destiny in this lifetime. The South Node is the talents and things that you brought in from the past lifetime. So any contact to that is going to bring up some stuff. Now, obviously, some stuff, not anything, nothing is perfect. So there's going to be stuff that comes with all of that. So, you may read some stuff that, oh, the South Node person will bring, the Sun person down, or it could be some struggles. With everything that we do with astrology, it really depends on the individual and how they're using their energy and their talents. Not everybody is going to utilize it the same. Some people may be working from a lower vibration. Others, be working from a higher vibration. So you do have to take that into consideration. Okay, so we have Paul McCartney and Linda McCartney, Paul's first wife. And their marriage lasted, I believe, 29 years. So this was a long relationship. Unfortunately, she passed away, but I believe if she was still living today, they will be still married. I mean, this was a long-term relationship, and they have a lot of connections, but mainly Linda's south node is right on his ascendant. Um, so, and her south node is right at his ascendant. So that is a strong pull to one another. Okay, so you have Denzel Washington and Pauletta Washington, and I have him on the outside, and I have Pauletta on the inside. Now, I don't know her time of birth. I do know Denzel's, but I believe it is his nodes. Okay, so I know where his nodes are. It's squaring her sun sign at Libra here. So his nodes are at Capricorn and Cancer, squaring her sun in Libra. This sun isn't going to move very far throughout the day. So I know that for sure squares it. Um, so yeah, okay. Um, so they've been together for many years. There's other aspects in their chart, but I'm just giving you the aspect that I'm talking about with the nodes and why they're so important in these relationships. Okay, so let's move on to Saturn contacts. Saturn is necessary for longevity. Saturn gets a bad rep. I have Saturn contacts in my chart, so I respect Saturn. I don't like the Saturn stuff, right? I don't, but it's necessary and the reward is so wonderful. After you do the work, after you learn the lesson, after, the foundation is laid, it is necessary for longevity. So that's why I say if you don't have um, the nodal contacts, the Saturn contacts needs to be there. Now, I know people who just have the nodal contacts and the relationship isn't nearly as challenging if you only have Saturn or if you have both Saturn and nodal. So that Saturn contact is going to bring in some stuff, but I mean, we're talking about um, the hard aspects. So we're talking about the square and the conjunction. The trine is good. The sextile is good, right? But that's not going to that's not going to help as much. Squares cause, when I see trines or sextiles in people's chart, and that's just individual people, they don't have any squares. I'm like, ooh, they might be lazy. They don't have that get up and go, that, willpower, that determination, that perseverance to fight through and get through and work through it. So when I don't see those in relationship charts or synastry, I worry because it's like, are these people going to do the work that's necessary? Because relationships are not easy, y'all. We're all looking for the easy way out. And I said we all are. None of us wants to do the work, but you hear people talk about their marriages. People who've been married for 30, 40, 50 years, they will tell you this is not easy. Okay, you got to be built for it. You got to be built for it tough for relationships, because you will go through difficult times. You will have, you know, what I like, someone said, intense fellowships. Like you will have those moments, and you have to be able to withstand those moments. Obviously, we know in today's age that divorce rates are really, really high. People just leave relationships and marriages really easily these days. And there's a debate on why people stayed in marriages back in the day. I won't get into that here, but I believe now that people just, oh, I'm out, and don't want to work through the stuff and don't want to um, be patient and to go to counseling, go to therapy, go, you know, uh, doing the things, compromising. So anyway, I'm not going to get on that tangent. Okay, that's for another day. But I definitely want to see the hard aspects that are there that need to be there. Now, I would prefer to see a woman's Saturn on a man's planet, like her Saturn conjunct his Venus, her Saturn square his Venus, because that makes him want to commit to her. That makes him want to make that long term partnership work. It can work the other way around, but more often than not, I've seen, even with my own synastry, when a man's Saturn is squaring my Venus or someone's Venus, that man will misuse that and abuse that. And so there will be a lot of hurt or can be a lot of hurt there. So not always. Another thing I want to see is if I do see Saturn contacts, um, and you'll notice this with a couple, a well-known celebrity couple later. But if I do see Saturn contacts, I need to see some contacts that are more uplifting. So if a woman has Saturn square Venus, I will want her Jupiter also making a contact to his Venus to kind of offset that Saturn energy. Because if you just constantly, restricting or limiting or beating down, because Saturn can be a wet blanket, it's like, we're not doing that. Um, and you don't have anything to offset that, something fun, something light to show that, no, you're loved. Like, I really love you, like, I really adore you. I really cherish you. I appreciate you. You're everything. And you're just constantly criticizing that's gonna make any person want to walk away. It's like this is too much. So I do want to see, the uh, Saturn. Uh, if I see Saturn contacts, I want to see other contacts with that. Now, I have seen. I do not want. I would prefer not to see a woman's Saturn on a man's Mars. Okay. Mars is that masculine energy, is how you act. It is how you pursue things, right? It's how you do things in the world. And the that Mars in a man's chart, right? That's his manhood, like physically and literally, y'all. Like if a woman is putting some restriction on that, we might have a problem. Just maybe. He will feel so emasculated, right? Because Saturn is the father. You know, I'm the authority here. And Mars is like, that's the Aries energy. Like, I want to be the leader. I want to be in charge. I want to be this. And Saturn is like, no, you will listen to me and you will do this and you will stop being a child. That's not good. So I will prefer not to see that. I have seen that and it does work. I'm not in that relationship though, so I don't know day to day how that works. Um, but I have seen the ramifications. I've even had that, and I'm like, and you can't help it, y'all. You can't. Even I'm aware of the energy, but it is when it's there, you just can't help yourself. Everything that Mars person does is childish. It's like you it's childish. Like I'm being your mother, and you need to stop. You just can't help it. And even Saturn, Mercury hard contacts, no matter which way it's coming from, that person, that Mercury just irritates the Saturn. So that Saturn is always correcting. It doesn't like the way Mercury talks. It is that that's for I guess another video that I will do on synastry. But those you don't want to see. Okay, so I'm gonna get off the tangent and get back to showing you all um, what I mean when I'm talking about these aspects here. So, all right, so we have former President Barack Obama on the inside here, and we have former First Lady Michelle Obama. Woo, she just came out with another book, y'all. I love her. Okay, I love her. All right, so we have her Saturn on his ascendant. I mean, you know, like boom, she came in. I think she was his superior, I believe, if I remember correctly, that she was his superior somewhere um, where they were working. But that is, he wanted to commit to her. He wanted to commit to her. Now his Saturn here is also on her Capricorn sun. Okay, so it's going both ways. So it is nice when it goes both ways because you all are helping each other to grow and to mature. So there are some great things about Saturn. I know I went on a tangent earlier about, but Saturn is necessary and it does help you to grow and to mature, and it helps you to accomplish goals and accomplish so much in life. So it is needed. It is necessary. Um, but you have that here. They have other things here, and they have other factors here, but I won't get into that. That it's just this isn't the only thing that ties them together, but these are pretty potent. Okay, one thing I do want to point out. This is why I do not like sun sign astrology, y'all. He is a Leo sun. She is a Capricorn sun. Those are so vastly different that if a person just if this Leo would have met her and be like, "Oh, what's your sign?" and she said Capricorn, it would be like, "Oh no, like y'all were boring, right?" Not that y'all really are, but that's what the Leo probably would feel, right? The ruler of Capricorn is Saturn. So it is serious. It wants to climb up top. You know, it is about responsibility, and it's about, having this foundation and, all of that. Leos just want to have fun and play. We can see, I mean, these two are so great examples of, them living out their chart. It's true to fashion. He's Leo and he does have this Aquarian ascendant. Like it is true to fashion, right? She does seem more like the Saturnian person, that Capricorn person. Um, but you cannot go by sun sign, y'all. Don't meet somebody and be like, "Oh, you a what? You a Aries?" Oh man, no. I have a tendency to still do that too. In my matchmaking, initially I'm like, oh, a certain sign, like because I know it clashes with mine. But there are other things in that their chart that may not clash and it may be a beautiful thing. And so we're going to miss out on our forever person if we're just dismissing people because of sun signs. You have to look at the entire chart and how the connection is for the two of you. Okay. Next, we have the lovely Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds. I love these two. And she is pregnant again. So hopefully it is a boy. I know they have three girls. So congratulations to them. But you see that it is his chart is on the outside and her chart is on the inside. I do have both of their times and I have studied their synastry uh, in depth because I do have the birth time there. But that Saturn there is on that ascendant again. Now he is older than her, so that can sometimes be when you have Saturn contacts, especially um, the heart contacts. That usually indicates an older partner. Now that wasn't the case with Michelle and Michelle Obama and Barack Obama, but in this case, you do see that. So they have a I like them. I like them together. I really do. So you see that there. Okay, I won't get into anything else because I'll need to save the synastry stuff for another video. Okay, so we have Aisha Curry and Steph Curry. Okay, the 3-point shooter. I don't know if it's of all time, but he is a bad boy. In the 3-point, he's just a great basketball player. But we have his chart on the outside, and I have hers on the inside. Now I do not know her birth time. But I'm looking at her sun and her Venus. Now, her Venus could possibly change. I don't think so because I think it's at like 29 and a few minutes. So even if I pushed this out to 11 p.m., it is not going to move very much. Um, but his Saturn is here at Capricorn. So I do know that his Saturn squares her sun, right? Because Aries and Capricorn square each other. It is an out of sign square for the Venus, but it is there. That still does matter. It still does make a difference. Okay, so we know they got together very young, but that is that is big. Now, it is obviously not the aspect that I had wanted, but I told you you can't necessarily look at that and say, "Oh, that's bad. That's terrible." Um, his son is also on her Venus. So that brings a little sunshine there. That brings a little light there. So I wouldn't really trip about that so much. Okay. Um, all right. So next. All right. So we have the marriage aspect. I'm sure you all have heard of this one, the lovely sun moon aspect. It is beautiful. You do not see this in a lot of couples. It's not always there, especially if it's unafflicted. So if you have somebody's moon, on somebody's sun, and that moon has a lot of afflictions, you know, that could be, and that sun doesn't have a lot of afflictions, that could be a little challenging, okay, for that individual. So, so you have to look at it. You have to look at the whole chart. It can't just be, oh, we have a sun moon aspect or conjunction, and oh, this is great. Eh, let's look at everything. So I definitely want to see the conjunction. That is obviously the most powerful. The opposition is another one that is powerful. And I've even seen the square. Now that's weird. I've seen that. I've seen that work though. Sun moon square. There is a contact between the two. I would definitely want to see some other ones there to help that. Um, but this is the blending of masculine and feminine energy. It is like you see this person, you connect with this person, and it's like, oh my goodness, this is my person. This is not that instant chemistry that you may get with the Sun Venus. Um, but this is that, you may look at the Sun Venus and be like, oh, this person is beautiful and think this is my soulmate. But with the Sun Moon, you really feel like the connection is so powerful and so deep. It is beyond the physical attraction. This is like my soul's desire. It is like the two coming together. This is what God created for relationships to be like. That's what you feel when you get this. Sometimes, again, you got to look at the entire chart, y'all. Okay. Um, but preferably it will be the man's sun on the woman's moon because these are masculine and feminine energies. So, um, if you are a very masculine man, right? And it happens to be your moon that's on the woman's sun, you may struggle with that because she would technically, again, depending on the chart, she would be the more dominant one in that relationship. So both of you have to be okay with that energy as well. So we'll have to look at that and see how feel about that relationship, feel about the dynamic. But either way, it still will be a very potent connection, and it will be one that, you know, you may struggle to let go of. So let's see some examples. Okay, so we have Michael J. Fox and his wife. Okay, so I have Michael J. Fox on the outside and I have his wife on the inside. Now, I do not know her time of birth, so understand this moon could move. This is her moon. This moon could move. Um, and um, that could be a little different. However, because I said it at 12 o'clock, it's only going to move 6 degrees either way. So if it moves, even if it moves, to, I don't know, 21, it's still going to be conjunct the sun. If it moves the other way, it'll be widely conjunct, but I will give the sun and moon that wide conjunction. I mean, I, the opposition or conjunction, I'm going to give it a wider orb than the five that I had, told you all about earlier. So because they're the same, it's the same sign and all of that. So I definitely would take that. So this will still be that connection there. Okay. Okay. So we have Mila and Ashton. Okay. And I have both of their birth times. So I have her on the inside and I have him on the outside. Okay. And her sun is Leo and his sun is an Aquarius. Opposites do attract, y'all. It do attract. Okay. So they've been together for a little while now, and their relationship, I haven't seen a whole lot, about it, but I think they're pretty settled in their life. So yeah, that is a match made in heaven. It's like, oh, this is it. This is my person. Where have you been all of my life, right? Um, okay. So the birth dasha I had mentioned before. This is a Hindu. Um, I don't know what you want to call it, aspect or thing. And marriage made in heaven, I have read that marriage is usually made in heaven by if your birth dashas are if the man's birth dasha, right? If those same planets are connected to the woman's seventh house and vice versa, that is match made in heaven. So it's not whether his planets are connected, right? So if he has, let's say, Sun Saturn as his birth dasha, okay? When you look at her chart, the Sun or Saturn in her chart should be connected to her seventh house. From my understanding, that's how I read that. That's how I looked at the examples. I am not an expert in the Hindu um, system, but I've studied it. I have done many charts on it. This was a new one that came to me. So I will be honest, I am fairly new with this one. But when I did see it and I understood it, I was like, whoa, this we might be on to something. Because when I looked at people's, you know, who didn't work out, even in my own relationships, like there was no connection. It may have been from one partner, but the other one, it didn't connect. And I'll explain it a little bit more. One of the other things I seen too, especially in my own relationships, past relationships, is that if you have, like I said, let's say I had the Sun Saturn, I'll use the same example, Sun Saturn Dasha at birth. Um, every person I had been with that was not my person had a Sun Saturn aspect in that chart. but it was not connected to the seventh house. So they may have had a Sun Saturn conjunction. Saturn may have just aspected the sun in their chart, but it had no connection to their seventh house. I thought that was interesting because initially when I was doing it, I was thinking, oh, this could have been my person. We know it couldn't have been my person because they had other stuff in the chart that was just mm-mm. But I was thinking, oh, okay, this was they had that Sun Saturn, but no, when I went back and looked at it again, it was not connected to their seventh house. So no, it wouldn't have worked. That wasn't it. But they may have had Venus Jupiter in as their birth dasha, and my Jupiter is maybe connected to the seventh house. So it's like, okay, it went one way, but it did not go the other way. Okay, so let me explain what I mean. So we're going to look at Jessica Biel and Justin Timberlake. Okay, so we're looking at Jessica Biel's dasha, and we're going to look at Justin Timberlake's chart. So her birth dasha is Mars. So Mars should be connected in some way in Justin Timberlake's chart to the seventh house. Okay. So again, her birth dasha is Mars. Because I know her birth time. That is the only way you're going to be able to do this one. You cannot do this one if you don't know the person, both people's birth times. Okay. Mars. This is Justin Timberlake's Hindu chart. Mars sits right in the seventh house. Voila, it is. There is no figuring out if this matches here. Okay, wait, the seventh house ruler is here and the seventh house. No, it's right there, clear as day. Bam. That's one side. Now we need to see if Justin Timberlake's dasha is a match for Jessica Biel's chart. All right, so his dasha is Ketu, or the South Node, in Venus. So either Ketu, South Node, or Venus has to be connected in Jessica Biel's Hindu chart. All right, this is kind of a simple one. I've seen some a little bit more stronger than this, but you get the gist. Venus is on her seventh house in this Hindu chart, and um, Venus is the ruler. Simple as that. that's that's how I connected the two. The South Node isn't, connected um, to the seventh house, the seventh house ruler, but that Venus is the ruler. So there you have it. It goes both ways. Um, there are, other connections, other synastry stuff in their chart, but I just wanted to show you all the birth dasha example. Okay, so other indicators that are not as strong as the other ones I mentioned, but they're still really important, especially planets in the seventh house. You have the sun, moon, or Venus, preferably the sun or moon, in the seventh house of your partner's chart. That is strong, especially if it's close to the ascendant or descendant. Um, that is, again, you activate that person's seventh house. You activate that person to want partnership with you. Do something to that person. The other big thing I did see, the seventh house ruler being aspected. I've seen this in every chart, every chart um, of the couples. So obviously I couldn't do it for the people I didn't know the birth time for, but their partner that I had the birth time for, it was there. And if I did not have the birth time, um, or maybe there was no connection, probably um, there is a connection if I had the birth time. Like there is the seventh heart seventh house ruler is being activated. It should be going both ways though. So, but you should activate each other's seventh house or seventh house ruler. I mean, I would think that's necessary. It makes sense to me. It's like the Dasha thing. Um, so let's example. All right, so we're going to look at Freddie Prince Jr. And I did spell Prince wrong. But you y'all get it. Or maybe is that how you spell his name? That might be how you spell it. I can't remember if I just made that up or whatever. But Sarah Michelle Gellar, she's on the outside, and I have him on the inside because I have his time of birth. I don't know Sarah Michelle's time of birth. Okay, so his seventh house. These are Sarah's planets. Venus sits right there. Okay, that's that's pretty all right. Then you have the sun that's there. You have the sun that's there. So that activates that. We're not even gonna get into this sun, or I'm sorry, Venus, Pluto on his relationship axis. But hey, that's potent, that's powerful there. But um, you do have that. So, and we have some other synastry stuff, but I just wanted to show you the seventh house stuff. So that is there, that activates it. That was yeah. Um, she does it for him. She does it for him. And she's doing it for him. They've been married for a really long time. Another one I can show you, the seventh house ruler being activated. His seventh house is Mars. His seventh house ruler is Mars. That's here in Gemini. So you have her sun sextiling that. It doesn't have to be a major. Uh, it doesn't have to be a major aspect. It just needs to be activated in some way. So you do have that there. All right. So we have again Victoria and David Beckham. And I have her planets on the inside. So I'm going to be looking at her descendant ruler. So we have Saturn here. Saturn in Gemini. Um, I must have thought that Venus there activates that. And I'm giving it such a wide orb, I think, because it's part of a stellium. I'm assuming that's why I'm doing it. It's part of the stellium, right? So it activates the south node. Immediately it's activating all the other planets there. So I believe that is one. I'm trying to see if he has other planets that may activate that at all. No, I don't see anything else. So, you have Uranus that trines it. I mean, it's an activation. So it doesn't matter what planet it is. It just needs to activate that planet. So you do have that this this Uranus, which is his Uranus trining that. Um, so I'm sure I didn't get into it, whether it activates his chart or not, but I don't want to take up too much time here. All right, so another one we have Mila and Ashton again. So I'm going to look at her descendant because she's on the inside. So Mercury. Mercury is her seventh house ruler, and her Mercury is here at Virgo. So I'm trying to see. I don't know if I just did a seventh house aspect or what. What is that? I'm sorry, guys. I didn't write notes for this one. So, you do have Jupiter in the seventh house. So I already knew that was going to be one that was important. You have Neptune here activating the seventh house ruler. And without wasting too much time, I don't really see a whole lot else. I must have just been looking at the Jupiter in the seventh house still. But I mean, you do have some activation there. Okay. Um, I'll have to look at that a little bit more when I do the synastry stuff. So, all right. So, other things that you want to just kind of note and, compatible moon signs. You have to look at the patterns in individual charts. You have to look at that. So, if a person has Venus conjunct Uranus and another person has Venus conjunct or square Saturn, ooh, y'all operate very differently in love. I mean, very differently. We're not even getting into the signs. Just the aspects alone are going to be triggers. The sun, I mean, the Venus Uranus person is going to feel smothered or feel like they can't do what the Venus Saturn person wants them to do, or it's just totally different energies. So you definitely need to make sure that there's some similarities. If a person has Sun or Venus Uranus conjunction, I would want the other person to have some type of Uranian energy, whether there's some trines, whether it's conjunctions to the ascendant, something so that they can understand both people's energies. So you definitely need to look at those similarities. So that's why when people say, "Oh, you got to look at each individual chart," you really do, because if those energies are off, that it ain't gonna work. So I'm getting into synastry. So like I said, I don't want to get too much into that because I want to talk about that for another video. But those are my indicators. Now, if you have all these indicators, what does this mean? You know, what will this last? No guarantee. No guarantee. We're going to look at Jennifer Aniston and Brad Pitt's chart because they have quite a few of the indicators. So they have the infamous Sun Moon conjunction, right? I have Jennifer on the inside and I have Brad on the outside. So his Sun conjuncts her moon. Remember, I said I would prefer for it to be the man's sun and the woman's moon. There you have it. I mean, ain't that good, y'all? But remember I said that if there is not an affliction, Jennifer has the moon square Pluto. Again, I don't want to get too much into synastry here, but I did want to point this out because I talked about that before. She has the moon square Pluto. That is intense. That is all or nothing. That is consuming love, right? It is, yeah, it's intense. And Brad and this Sag son just wants freedom and just wants, you know, fun. Brad don't have no plutonium energy. Brad don't understand. He like, hold on. That he don't. I don't think his Pluto aspects any of his planets. This is his, and then he's a Sag ascendant, so that's a double Sag, right? So he really wants fun and freedom and exploration and adventure. She wants that deep, deep conversation. Let's have this intimacy. Yeah, that's what she wants. But initially, this Sun Moon there was an attraction. That was like, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Her moon is in his first house. But I'll get into synastry stuff. I'm gonna save that for a video. That may be a long video, but because it's a lot to talk about there. But that's what I mean. You have to look at that chart. Just because you have that sun moon conjunction or opposition, listen, baby, if the energies are off, it may bring you together, but will it keep you together? I don't know, right? So Then we have her Saturn squaring his moon and Venus. So boom. I mean, we got some connections there. His nodes squaring her Venus. Boom. That's three aspects. Why the hell this ain't working out? Now, what I should have looked at was their dashas, birth dasha, but I believe it would still have worked because they got married. They were married, so it probably did. They probably do have that, but I'll have to look at that later. But I mean, they got three of the aspects that I talked about, but it was hard. It was hard. I mean, this is a synastry grid that I typically look at. Um, but okay, so these are her planets up here. This is Brad's down here. Okay, so these are how her planets are affecting his planets. So I'm looking at this Saturn here. See that? Her Saturn is squaring his moon. Her Saturn is squaring his Mercury. Her Saturn is squaring his Venus. Remember, I talked about if you have Saturn contacts, especially these hard contacts, I would like to see some uplifting energy to offset that. There are no other fun planets to offset these. None. You have her Saturn squaring his moon. This is his emotions. Now, this may have been easier to deal with because her Mercury conjuncted that, but that I think that's like 7 degrees out. I have to go back and look. So I don't think that's very close, and I don't know if that's out of sign, but that may have helped there, right? But when you look at her Saturn to his Mercury, remember I talked about that Saturn to Mercury. I mean, just constantly, you can't be yourself. You can't speak the way you speak. You can't think the way you want to think because that person is always there criticizing or changing or whatever. They're not doing it maliciously, they can't help it. But there is no Venus, there's no Jupiter contact that's offsetting that, right? Like, ugh, that was hard. Then you have the Saturn square Venus. Um, this made him want to commit to her. He did. But I don't see, again, a Jupiter or Venus sun, moon, anything offsetting that. You have Mars there, but Mars is kind of like it's a sextile. Uh, it activates it a little bit. You do have that Mercury there, but I think that's further out than the 5 degrees that I wanted. So it's not enough. That was hard for Brad. But we'll get into the synastry later on another video, and I'll explain that more in depth because did he really make a better choice? Could he have stuck through this and worked through this? Hmm. All right. So none of the stuff that I said will guarantee anything. Nothing in life guarantees anything. Relationship takes work. It takes both people wanting it and doing the work. Saying, hey, marriage or breaking up is off the table. We got to stick through this and we got to work through this no matter how it is. As long as there's no abuse in the relationship or, serial cheating, whatever. I mean, people even get through the cheating or infidelity. But relationships take work. And we want all this fairy tale stuff, y'all. And that's not realistic. I had to learn that the hard way. Like we have, especially women, we have grown up with this idea of fairy tales. Hell, even the Hallmark movies, right? Like if you really pay attention to them, there's a struggle for people to get from the beginning to the end, to the kiss that we see at the end, right? But we just go straight to, oh, she got her Prince Charming. Look at all of the difficulties and struggles that those people had to go through in the movie to get to the kiss. It's not going to be easy. It's not necessarily going to be simple. I think the love between you should be easy. That should be a natural thing. That should flow. Just the love and connection between you two. But life is going to happen. You are two individual people that are growing and evolving, and life is happening. That is going to happen. And you all are going to have to compromise. And so that's why you want to make sure you pick the right partner to go through life with, to go through those struggles with, to celebrate with, right? And the best way you can do that is making sure your communication styles are, on point. Your values and your morals align. Those are the biggest things. I have a number of books I love, love, love to read. And I have so many books that I think are just awesome, especially tied to relationships. And I'll have to just do a short video on the books that I absolutely love and have been um, very helpful in my journey, whether it's astrology or just, other books that I have found. You have to, I think we get so tied into, oh, do we have the same interests? We need to look at the values. Okay, get off his looks, her looks. I mean, you got to be somewhat attracted. But for me, I think once you talk to a person, attraction can grow. You'd be surprised. We see all these TV shows, reality TV shows about marriage and relationships. Attraction can grow, y'all. And you can't be repulsed by the person. But I have had those Sun Venus contacts, and it feels like everything. It feels like the most beautiful thing in the world. But our values didn't match up. And so it didn't matter how beautiful he thought I was. It didn't matter because it was never going to work because our values didn't align. We didn't have the same, you know, we did kind of have the same thinking processes somewhat. Um, I can't even say that. I think his thinking was, they were in the same sign, but his aspect is Saturn, mine aspect is Mars, and um, I have Neptune. So my thinking is way different than that. I'm not, that matter of fact or, it just it was very different. And but our values at the end of the day didn't align, morals didn't align, and it was just like, no, this ain't gonna work. So we have to take the attraction out of it and look at, hey, you know, do we have the same goals in life? You know, um, can we be, um, partners in life? Um, can I help you to grow? Can you help me to grow? Can we help each other fulfill our destiny? Right? Can we support each other, especially in those difficult times? Can we encourage each other? So I'm getting off on a tangent. I'm getting into my relationship coaching stuff, but y'all, relationship takes work. So no matter how many charts I do, if you all don't put in the work, I can tell you what your morals and values are through your chart. We can go through that. That's why it's so good to like understand these charts, but understanding we are all complicated individuals. So there may be some aspects that may not be great and other aspects that are wonderful. So we have to figure out what the best thing is for us. So one of the things that we need to do as people is understand what we want and what we need. So that's why I always say look at your own chart, really study and understand your own chart. And then you can go out and pick the best mate for you. If you truly understand what it is you want and what you need, that is going to help you to grow. Okay, so that's all I have for now. I hope you enjoyed this video. Until next time, peace, love, and light.